We're now recording, and I'm going to share my screen and we will get going. So I'm just hiding my, there we go. So welcome everybody. We're going to be talking about blogging and WordPress design. This is going to be specific to WordPress and not include things like Wix or Weebly or other free sites. Just because this is, I'll go over it in a second, actually. So in here, I cover WordPress.org versus WordPress.com, but the same thing applies to Weebly and Wix as well. So the same principle, WordPress has two different types of platforms. They have the self-hosted platform, which is WordPress.org, and then they have WordPress.com. And WordPress.org is when you have to have a host. So we're going to be going that a little bit in a minute. Weebly, Wix, these are free sites. WordPress.com is also a free site. You can get a business site through them, but the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com and Wix and Weebly is like the difference between renting a house and buying a house. When you rent a house, you can furnish it, you can decorate it to a certain extent, you can do things that kind of make it feel like your own, but there's some things you can't do. You can't go knocking down walls, you can't, decide to do additions because it's not fully yours. And when you have a free site versus a self-hosted site, it's kind of the same thing. The space is not yours. There's a reason why it's free. And it's free because those platforms, they put their own advertising. They do their own thing on your space. So nothing is really free. And when you have a self-hosted site, if you decide to move your site to another host, if you decide to do any number of things with your site, those files belong to you. You decide what ad networks, if any, that you want to have on your site. You decide what affiliates you want to have on there. It's fully yours. And that's just not the case with WordPress.com, Wix, and Weebly. Like I said, you can purchase business sites for those, but you're still not owning those files. So we are going to, in this seminar, be discussing WordPress.org, which are self-hosted. And we're going to be going over different hosting options. I know that with this seminar, we said that you should have a self-hosted WordPress site, but I'm also aware that some of you may not have one as of yet, but may be looking at getting one, and you probably want some recommendations as far as what you should do for hosting, what kind of hosting that you should have, and so on, and we're going to go over that. So what we're going to be learning, some of it I'm going to go over with you right now, such as WordPress no-nos. These are really important things with WordPress. Some of them seem kind of intuitive, on any site where you're putting in a username and password, you want it to be secure. With WordPress, what happens with self-hosted sites is a lot of the time the hosting will default to a username like admin. And you want to make sure that your site, hackers, that's one of the first things that they try. They try the name of your site, they try admin, and so on. And so you want to make sure that you have a unique username that many times has nothing to do with your site. You're able to set that up on your host. Passwords obviously should be as complicated as possible. There are a lot of issues with hacking with any website. So the stronger your username and password is, and also having a security platform. WordFence is a really great WordPress security plugin that you can get, and you can have two-factor authentication so that, so for instance, when I go to log into my site, I actually have to open up an authenticator app on my phone. Not every time. You can set it to not ask you again for a month if it's the same same computer. But it's kind of like those, you have to enter in a PIN code so that you verify that it is you. Hacking is really a big problem. So I can't stress that enough, that you should have that. Hosting backups, you want to make sure that you have a backup plugin. We're going to go over that as well. A lot of hosts, most hosts will back up your site, but those backups, unfortunately, are not sufficient. They're sufficient for things like if you make an edit to a page and then you realize you messed up something, so you want to reload the page that your host backed up this morning, you can do that. But if your site goes down or it gets hacked or anything like that, you're going to need more than just your host backup. Not having a caching plugin is another no-no. Caching is where you save on site speed and so on, because it'll feed users the same, it's like a saved version of your page. So again, these are all things that we're going to go over. Themes and plugins, this is probably one of the biggest things that you're going to want to know. Choosing the right theme, choosing the right plugins is huge. We're going to go over the importance of SEO right from the beginning. I spent about 2 years on my site making all the mistakes. I could write a book about all the mistakes that you can make in having a blog and having a WordPress site. So knowing SEO and learning it right from day one is going to be huge, especially if you have a local business and you're using your blog to help promote a local business. And then we're going to go over how to monetize. So some of you may already have hosting. Not every host is created equal, and it's an ever-changing, unfortunately, it's an ever-changing, ever-evolving thing, because some hosts, if you've taken any of the seminars with me in the past, you may have heard me say, you know, SiteGround is a great host, and now it's on my avoid list. And the reason for that is because some hosts, especially as they get bigger, like Bluehost, HostGator, SiteGround, and GoDaddy, they start to drop WordPress support. And you want a host that is not only going to provide you good support, but is going to provide you any support. And SiteGround recently announced that they're going to be dropping their WordPress support. So SiteGround is now on the avoid list. Bluehost, you might be wondering, why is Bluehost on there? GoDaddy is one of the most popular, or I should say well-known ones. Why avoid those? For the reasons that I mentioned earlier, which is hacking is an issue. It's mostly a support issue. And when I say support, I don't mean, you know, calling the help desk. I mean that they support WordPress as a platform. And there have just been numerous problems. Bluehost has an entire list that I could give you of issues with support, and sites going down is a big one. That's another reason GoDaddy has not the greatest history with sites being up. And so those are on the avoid list. The ones that are good to have, NameHero is one of the most highly recommended ones. They're relatively affordable as far as hosts go. You can do a monthly plan with them. You can do an annual plan with them. You could do a 3-year plan with them. Big Scoots is for bigger sites. So sites that maybe have like 100,000 page views a month or more. Big Scoots is fairly expensive. But if you're getting over 100,000 page views a month, you're probably making the money to pay for Big Scoots. WP Engine and WPX are these are two hosts that are recommended, not as strongly as NameHero and Big Scoots, but they're recommended by. There's a company called iMark Interactive. They're the person who owns it, his name is Grayson Bell. He's a friend of mine. He is the consummate WordPress guru, and he recommends Name Hero and Big Scoots. These other ones are secondary to those. So they are options that are not bad options, but like I said, Name Hero and Big Scoots are the two. One is, if you're just getting started, you can ramp up your plan on Name Hero, and then when you grow larger, you can move to Big Scoots. Do not get your domain and your hosting from the same place. So Name Hero does offer domain names, and they do offer, when you sign up for some of their hosting plans, they do offer you a free domain, and that's great, and you should take advantage of that, but you shouldn't take advantage of that as your main domain. The reason why Namecheap is the name of a good place to get domain names. I always recommend .coms versus .orgs. Not if you're a not-for-profit, you can do a .org, but .coms are always better. You don't want to get them from the same place, because if for any reason whatsoever your billing gets messed up, we've all had that happen, where your bank issues a new credit card and you have to scramble around to try to change your credit card number with a bunch of companies. If you have your domain name and your hosting from the same place and your billing comes up, you're gonna lose both of them. So it's always advised, and also sites can crash. So you don't want to lose your domain and your hosting at the same time. So it's always recommended that you get them from two separate companies. Like I said, for your hosting, Name Hero and Big Scoots; for your domain name, Namecheap. And it is just that Namecheap is really inexpensive. And you can also get privacy with that as well. So that I did not do privacy one year, and I got spam calls all the time from people claiming to sell stuff for Google. So it's always good to have the privacy. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump in, and I am going to show you around WordPress. I'm going to be jumping between two different sites of mine. The reason being is that my main site has far more than what you need to see for some things, and I don't want to throw too much at you. So I'm going to go to one of my sites that's under construction right now for some things, and then for other things, I'm going to use my main site. So I am going to jump over to my main site, and we're going to go over settings. So this is what the WordPress dashboard area looks like. You're going to see the name of your site. You're going to see things like posts. This is where you would enter your posts. This is where you would enter pages. Posts are blog posts, so that those are things that you're writing about, where pages are things like your About Me page, your privacy policies, and so on. Down here is settings, and this is really important that this should be one of the first things that you do. Under general, you're going to want the name of your site title, and then your tagline, and just a few words about what your site's about. You're going to have your WordPress address and your site address, which should be the same. You're going to have your email address. You really don't want to check anyone can register, because you don't want people just registering for your site. You can jump down to the date format and format it any way you want. This is a matter of preference. And then time format. And then just make sure you hit save before you go on to the next one. The next one you're going to go to is writing. A lot of these are self-explanatory as you look through them, so I'm just kind of going to go through them pretty quick. Default post category, I always keep uncategorized because I have quite a few categories. Your category is, I like to call them silos. It's basically, if you're blogging about different things, like let's say you have a lifestyle blog. I hate the term lifestyle blog because it's so broad, but let's say you have a site that has gardening, and then you also have recipes, and you also have pet care. Those are categories. So you enter them here. I leave it as uncategorized as a default, because I want to pick. I don't want, for search engine optimization purposes, I don't want, say, a recipe to get a category of pets. So this way I choose my category. Block editor is what you should be using. Classic editors is what WordPress, if you already have a WordPress site and you're using Classic Editor, you can always email me and I can tell you one way that you can transfer everything over to Block Editor pretty quickly and easily. The reason why you want to do that is because WordPress is going to be phasing out the Classic Editor in, I can't remember if they said at the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. But what's going to happen if you have the Classic Editor is it's going to transfer everything over into one Classic Editor block. And the problem with that is if you decide later on that you want to add more blocks, and I'll show you what I mean by blocks in a little bit, you're not going to be able to add them in there because it's just going to be one big block. So if you already have a blog and you already have Classic Editor and you want to know how to convert them over so that your text comes in as blocks, you can always email me and I can help you do that. If you do have Classic Editor and you want to allow users to switch back and forth, you can click yes. I had yes here already because I was using Classic at one point. This blog is pretty old. So I had it so that I could switch back and forth, but that could be no if you're just starting off. Reading. Okay. So this is really, it's a matter of preference, but I'll give you best practices for this. You can choose to have your homepage. So when somebody goes to your site, www.yoursite.com, you can have it just be a list of your latest posts, or you can have a static homepage. Static homepage is a page where it'll tell people who you are, what you're about, and then, you know, maybe further down, there's some of your most recent blog posts. That is Jane, are you still there?
I'm here, but I didn't hear you for a second.
Okay. Yeah, for some reason, I just lost the menu on the side that shows me everybody who's in there. So I wanted to make sure I didn't lose everybody.
No, I'm on it.
Okay. So anyway, so you can have it be your latest post, which is just going to be a list of your most recent posts, or the static page, which tells people who you are, what you're about. You can have a little block in there that has your, like, say, your most recent 9 posts. A static page is always better practice, especially for search engine optimization, because you want Google to know who you are and what you're about. And if you just have a list of random blog posts with no categories, they're just on your main page, Google's really not going to be able to tell much about you. So a static page is always a better option. You pick your home page, which is usually home, and then your post page, which is going to be your blog. They call it a blog archive page. It's not really archived. It's it's a misnomer. I don't know why they use the term archive. I guess in some way it is, but it's also your, oops, sorry about that. But it's also your most recent post. So it's not technically an archive, but that's what they call it. You can choose how many blog posts to show at most. This is, I don't even bother with this. For each post in a feed, you want a summary. You don't want to have the full text of your posts on a feed because that would be huge and people would get annoyed. And then you don't want to discourage search engines from indexing your site unless you're building it. So if you don't want Google searching it just yet, you can check this. I would advise that you kind of do an under construction plugin versus doing that, because you might forget to check it later on. So it's just kind of not a good practice to get into. And then there's discussion. This is where people will comment on your blog post. So, you put a post out there and people say, great post, love this. There are a few good practices for this. I like to allow link notifications from other blogs. So when somebody links to me, I want to know about it. And the reason for this is you can get really spammy backlinks, and that can actually hurt your Google rankings. It doesn't make sense to me why somebody else linking to my site should affect my site, but it kind of, everybody that links to you provides you with what we call Google juice. It kind of lends to your expertise. We call it the EAT formula: expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So the higher the domain authority, and the domain authority is a number that is assigned. It has nothing to do with Google. It's assigned by Moz.com, and it rates the strength of a website. So like Pinterest and big sites like Facebook, they might have like a domain authority of 90. If they link to you, that's great because they have a domain authority of 90. Even though Google doesn't use the domain authority score, it gives you an idea of that strength. So even though Google's not looking at the score itself, the score is indicative of the strength of the sites that are linking to you. So what you can do is when you have spammy sites linking to you, because that will do the opposite, you can disavow them. So I like to be notified when there are other blogs pinging back to my page. Allow people to submit comments on new posts, obviously, unless you want to completely disable comments. You want to leave that on. Comments used to be really good because you could comment on somebody else's blog and that would be a backlink back to your blog, but they're kind of no follow links. So it really doesn't do you any good to comment on other people's posts unless it's a genuine comment. I allow people to submit comments on my post just because it shows engagement, which lends to user experience. Other comment settings: comment author must fill out name and email. I would say that's a must because you want to avoid spam. You want to avoid filling up your comment thread, and you want to make sure that they're moderated. So I always check comment must be manually approved. If you have this, and because you don't want really bad comments on your site, so you want to manually approve them. But if you're not requiring people to log in, people can just keep spamming you with comments, and next thing you know, you have 90 comments to approve and they're all spam. So I would check that one, and I would check the moderated one. Enable threaded comments. I don't even know what that is, to be honest with you. I don't know why. I just left that alone. Avatars. This is a big one for site speed. Avatars there are these little pictures that you can get. There's a site called Gravatar that you can go and you can add either a profile picture or an icon or something. And it looks really great when you comment on a blog post and your little icon shows up. But on your site, when people do that, it actually, every image that loads on your site is going to slow your site down. So by having avatars on your site speed is going to take a major hit. So disabling avatars just allows their name and their comment, and it doesn't quite slow down your site speed as much. Media. I leave these as they are. I haven't messed with these. Usually your theme is going to dictate a lot of this. This was, looking at this now, I didn't add anything. And then permalinks, this is a big one. You want to make sure that your common settings in your permalinks is checked for post name. You don't want to have numerics. You don't want to have the month and name, because if you have a month or you have a day, and let's say a year from now, you decide that you want to update and republish that post, and I republish posts all the time, it's going to have that old date in it. And if you want to get rid of that old date, you're going to have to constantly change your slug or your URL. And you don't want to be doing that unless you absolutely have to. So going with the post name is usually a good bet. Yes, you could change your post name. I change it all the time. I've been updating old posts. I change my post name all the time, but I try not to change my URL unless I absolutely have to for SEO reasons. So post name is definitely what you want to go with. And then just save changes. So that's your set. Those are your basic settings. Your privacy tab is just going to show your privacy policy, which you do want to make sure that you have. So I'm going to pause there and ask if there's any questions on the general settings for WordPress.
Did you unmute everyone, Diane?
I didn't mute it. I didn't mute them. So
Oh, you
they,
didn't, okay.
no, they should be able to unmute.
Ask away, okay.
No questions? Okay. So the other things that you're going to see now, try not to pay too much attention to all this in mine because yours would look significantly different. A lot of mine is the way it is because I have a lot of different plugins. So like my friend Grayson that I mentioned earlier, he actually has access to my site and he takes care of some stuff. So a lot of this you're not going to see. You are going to see.
So apparently, Denise gave her very specific instructions. Kimora, do not show up in a hoodie and jeans.
Let me just check the chat. Oh, thanks, Glenn.
Very well.
Okay. So a lot of these are plugins that you see here. These are things that you have the option. Can everybody just mute their microphones?
I think it's Cheryl Ann.
I can't.
Depending on where we're going, right? Like, it's not even a hoodie, because she knows, like, yeah, the hoodie's not gonna work. It's the running shoes. But then I'm like, so I said to her, I go, you have to remember, the reason why I wear running shoes most of the time is because of my.
Okay, there we go. All right, so a lot of these are just plugins that I have, like Click to Tweet. It's a little thing that you can add to your post that you know, allows people to tweet certain lines from your post and so on. So these are mostly different plugins that you can add. So we're going to go into theme, and let me just hide this. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my other site now so that I can show you the theme. Now, for themes, what you want to do is you want to have something that is really good for site speed. There are several themes that are recommended. Astra is one theme. Kadence, it's spelled Kadence. That is the theme that I use on all my sites. It's super fast. It's nice and clean. I'll show you in a second. It's really great for speed. And that's one of the things that you really want to pay attention to, especially on mobile devices. Starting in May, Google is really paying attention to what's called Core Web Vitals, which is the amount of time before a user actually sees or interacts with the screen. If you've ever been on, and this happens a lot on various news sites, if you've ever been on a page and you're reading something and next thing you know, the page jumps and you end up on another part of the screen, that's one of the things that Google, I don't want to use the word penalize because that's not, in truth, that's not what they're doing. But let's say your site and my site are equal on all other footings. If you don't meet those core web vitals, then my site is going to outrank yours if mine does. So it's not a ranking factor per se, unless everything else is equal. but it is really bad for user experience. People don't like it. I get really annoyed when I'm on a site and it jumps all over the place as I'm trying, especially when you go to click a link and next thing you know, the screen jumps. Over 70% of my traffic is mobile, and Google is mobile first. So Google is not even paying attention to what your desktop speed is for your website. They're paying attention to mobile. So you really want a good mobile theme. And Cadence, Astra, the other one is ASTRA. These are free themes. You can get pro versions of them if you want to use some of their other features, but these are free. You can just go to their website and you can download the theme and you're good to go. So once you get your theme installed, and the way you install your theme is you just, for Cadence and Astra, you just go to themes, and when you download the theme, it'll download as a zip file, and you just go to themes, and you're just going to hit add new, and then you're going to, it's going to give the option of downloading, and then you're just going to download your theme. You can, for both Astra and Cadence, there are, if you're not really that into like web design and you don't really want to mess around a lot with actually designing the theme itself, they have, and only do this if you haven't already built a lot of content. If you built a lot of content and you're just switching themes, you don't want to use these, but they have like these pre-made designs that you can use. But again, I would only use them. They're in Cadence, they're called starter templates. I would only use them if you don't have content, because it will change the structure of your posts and everything. If you have a few posts, it's not a big deal. But if you have a lot of content, I wouldn't use the starter templates. Once you get your theme installed, you want to go to customize. And this is where you're going to really be able to build out your the look and feel of your site. So for Kate, now this is going to look different depending on what your theme is. Some of these things you won't see. Some of them you might see more. It's going to show you your main page. So this is what I mean by a landing page. So this, it kind of tells you the name of the site, latest posts, there's a shop link, and so on. If it was just a blog post site, you would just see these posts and nothing else. So under general settings, you can change your layout, you can customize your sidebar, you can change the colors. So you can click here and you can choose your palettes, you can enter in hex codes for all of this. This is where you change your background and your title. That's what gives it the color that I chose. You can choose the color that you want your links and so on. Then you just hit publish when you want to save it. You can edit your button colors so that, you know, various buttons like here, you can see the colors that are here, and you could just play around with these settings and just get your site however you want it to look. Scroll to top is one you probably won't see on too many themes. That's specific. I think Astra has it and Cadence has it, but you may not see that. Typography is another one that's really important because this is where you're going to choose your fonts. And one of the things that you want to make sure that you do is that you're not using a lot of Google fonts. Again, they slow your site down horribly. You'll see them here. There's the typical ones that you would find in Word, like Arial, Times New Roman. I know they're kind of boring, but like these really odd names that you never see, those are the ones that are going to slow your site down. You're going to set your headers. So your H1 font is your big headers, like on a blog post. If I click on here, this is your title is always your H1, your other headers. this is like an H2. The next one is H3. I hardly ever use H4 and H5. But you can set all that. So this is just where you can go and customize everything. Performance is another one, but I'm going to show you a plugin that is probably better for you to use other than the performance in your theme. And not all themes have performance. So you can play around with it. If you have Name Hero, if you even have SiteGround, if you already have it, you have you have sandboxes. You have a site that you can build offline and play with it, get it to where you want it to look, and then you can push it to live when you have it done. That's a really good way of doing it. But if your site is brand new, you don't have to worry about doing that. I only use those if I'm completely refurbishing a site that's already live, because you don't want to make changes as your site is live. Any questions on theme or anything like that? Or customization? I'm kind of just zooming through these so that we can get to like search engine optimization. So if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so plugins. Plugins are what kind of gives your site the performance that you need it to have. There's some plugins that are absolutely core that you should have. One of them is an SEO plugin. There are two SEO plugins that are really popular in WordPress. One of them is Yoast. That's YOAST. And then one is Rank Math. I prefer Rank Math. I just think Rank Math offers a lot of functionality. Your SEO, we're going to get into this a little bit more when we talk about SEO, but you definitely need to have an SEO plugin. So I would recommend one of those two, either Yoast or Rank Math. So I'm going to go over to my plugins and just kind of go through them with you. So you can ignore a lot of these. So Akismet is an anti-spam plugin. I definitely recommend it. If you are going to be making a profit from your site, then you need to have the paid version of Akismet. They do charge if you're a commercial site. If your site is a not-for-profit or you're not going to be earning an income off of it, if it's just like a hobby blog, then you can name your price and you can name 0. So you can basically get it for free. But Akismet is what you want to have. When I mentioned earlier about all those spam comments, this will help eliminate a lot of spam that you will get. Not just you're just going to get it in your comments, you're going to get it on your contact forms. Akismet takes care of, I hardly ever see spam in my comments because of this plugin. So that is one I definitely recommend. Click to tweets. There are several different ones. I actually have a couple in here. In the core functionality of WordPress now, you might hear it referred to as block editor. You might hear some people call it Gutenberg because that's what it was called when WordPress first came out with the block editor. There is one that's kind of native to block editor. That's the one I use. They're both active on here, but it really doesn't matter as long as you have a click to tweet, because you want people to share things from your pages and your posts. So this is an easy way to allow for them to share. Here's an example of a click to tweet. So this I just took a little snippet from my text and put it in a tweetable block, and somebody can click that and tweet it right out to Twitter, and then it will actually have your link and people can visit your post to read the rest of it. So it's kind of like free advertising. Black hole for bad bots. I added that, but I haven't activated it yet. Apparently what it does is it takes bots that might attack your site and it puts them into this black hole where they just can't get out of. I haven't found a need for it. I loaded it because someone suggested it, but I didn't activate it yet. If your plugin isn't activated, it's not really doing anything. So it doesn't do you any harm to have it. There's a myth out there that having a lot of plugins will slow down your site, and that's not true. Having bad plugins will slow down your site. So it's not the number of the plugins that you have, it's what plugins that you have. Block animation, I used to have that when, see here it's Gutenberg. I had it a while ago. I don't use it anymore. Bulk block converter is the one I was talking about earlier, where if you already have a site and it's in Classic Editor and you want to convert those to blocks, you can use the bulk block converter. You can convert all of them at once, or you can choose one or two, convert them, make sure that everything converted right before you go changing everything. Always back up your site first before you make any changes like that. But I've had great experience with bulk block converter. So that's one way that you can move from Classic Editor to blocks. And here's Classic Editor. I only have it in here because I have a couple of pages, I think like my privacy policy or something that's built in that, but I'll be getting rid of that. Code snippets is a good one to have. I definitely recommend adding that. Code snippets are a way for you to do just that. It's a way for you to add code without putting it into your theme's elements. So you don't want to go messing with the coding behind your theme. And this is a way for you to add those little snippets of code without going into and editing your theme's code. Contact forms are a great thing to have for people to send you messages. You can, if you want, go with an email address, but I find contact forms just do better. Convert Pro, I haven't used this. This is just an email form creation. I haven't used it, and I probably won't, because this one and there's another one here, Thrive Leads, they really slow your site down. So I had iMark install this for me, but I probably won't use it. ConvertKit is my email service provider. It's what I use to email my subscribers. It is a paid service. If you have, I'm trying to remember now. You can get it for free, but it doesn't come with automations. If you want to set up automated emails, like say when somebody subscribes to a form, you want it to send out a welcome email. To use those types of automations, I think it's $15 for the first 1,000 subscribers, and then the price goes up. But ConvertKit is, if you're going to use a mail service, I would recommend either ConvertKit or MailerLite. But MailerLite, if you add it as a plugin, again, it's all coming down to site speed. ConvertKit won't slow your site down as much as MailerLite will. So I would recommend ConvertKit. And if you need a link to ConvertKit, let me know and I can give you a link to that. Create by Mediavine creates recipe cards if you're going to be a food blogger, or it also does lists. So you can create a list. I can show you one right in here. This is a really powerful tool because it does put schema code behind your lists, your how-tos. So let's say you're going to have like a home renovation blog. You can do a how-to, you can do lists and so on. So,
Diane, someone just asked, I need a link.
Oh, for ConvertKit?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, I will send out the link to ConvertKit with when I send out the recording. So that way everybody has it. If you need help at any time, ConvertKit does have a little bit of a learning curve behind it because it is really powerful for segmenting your audience. So let's say, for instance, I want to send out an email, a welcome sequence to my subscribers, and I want to send it in English to everyone in the United States, but let's say all my subscribers in France, I'm never going to do this because I don't speak French, but let's say all my subscribers in France, I want to send that same email in French. What I can do is I can actually set up an if A, then B automation and segmentation. And I can say if the location of the subscriber, because it looks at the IP address, if the location of my subscriber is France, then send it in French. So it has really powerful segmentation and automation behind it. But feel free to email me anytime if you need. They have a really good community and a really good, like, within the, I guess it's like a forum, a support forum. So you can learn a lot from there, but if you need help, let me know. For the, I'm trying to think of which one I have here. Let me just go here. I want to give you an idea what you can do with these lists. So like I said, if you're a food blogger, you can do recipes right in that. So here's another way of doing this. So what I did was I actually, I belong to an ad network, and we sent out a request from food bloggers to give us their best recipes for two. This image here that you see is actually pulling from one of their sites. So you see how it gave photo credit to that site, the image it pulled from that site, and then a little tiny description of the recipe, and then get recipe. And then if you click this, it'll go to that person's site. This is what they call a roundup post. You can ask people to contribute. You're not taking their recipe because it's linking directly to their site. You're basically giving them free advertisement, but you're adding value to your readers. And this is all done in that Create Card plugin. So all you do is you add the links and it will automatically pull the image. You don't have to download these images yourself. Once you put the link in, it will pull the featured image from that recipe. So it's a really powerful tool, and I definitely recommend getting it. And that's called Create by Mediavine. Mediavine is my ad network. You have to qualify to be in the ad network, but there are two plugins. Grow is one and Create is the other that Mediavine offers to everybody. So anybody can download these. Then custom related posts is just that. It's at the end of your blog post. It will show, and you can select which ones it links to. You can show posts that are related to that one. What it does is it encourages people to continue to click through your site. So you're giving more value, but you're also getting page views for yourself, which is really important. And I had FMTC affiliate disclosure. You need to disclose anytime, especially if you join Amazon. Amazon has very specific wording that you need to have. I think I have it up here. Yeah. So this is kind of the word. It's huge here because this is actually under construction. This is the wording that Amazon wants all their affiliates to have. But if you're an affiliate for other companies other than Amazon, you need to disclose to people that you could potentially be earning an income, and you are not allowed to say, you will be supporting my site if you buy this. That's not permissible. So you need to just say, basically this page may contain affiliate links. I may earn a little something if you click on this at no additional cost to you. And then you want to have an affiliate disclaimer page that goes into more detail. Grow Social Pro by Mediavine is just that. It's a social sharing. I'm not sure if I still have it in this one. No, it doesn't look like I have it in this one. Give me 1 second, because these are social share buttons. So when somebody, this is my other site. So when somebody goes to your blog post, you want them, obviously, for the same reason you want the click to tweets, you want them to share. And that's what these buttons are here. You can customize, you can see how it matches my theme. You do not need to have these platforms to have these share buttons. So this is a common mistake that people make is, well, I don't use Pinterest, so I'm not going to put a pin button on there. Well, it's not about what you have. It's about what other people have that they can share to. So it's not the same as a follow button. Your follow button, these are my follows up here. These are sharing. So that's the difference between the two. One is for people to follow me on Pinterest. One is for people to pin. And then I always have a pin in here with a little pin me button as well. Pinterest used to be a good source of traffic. If you've already done a blogging seminar with me, you've heard me sing the praises of Pinterest, and I'm not going to do that anymore because Pinterest is just not, I don't know what they're doing. None of us know what they're doing, but they're not helping us. My traffic used to be, at the best, it was about 80% from Pinterest. Then it was about 50-50 between Pinterest and SEO. Now it's about 15% comes from Pinterest. They keep changing things, so it's not as lucrative a traffic source as it used to be. iMark you won't have because that's my friend Grayson's company that I mentioned earlier. Insert headers and footers is definitely something you need. If you're going to be using Google Analytics or you're going to be using Pinterest and I recommend getting a Pinterest business account, it's free. You're going to need to verify your website. And the way that they do that is by inserting a code into your header or your footer. You don't want to edit your theme's coding. So this is a way for you to have it. It's not the same as a code snippet. This is more like verification codes versus CSS and other things. And I'm getting spammed. That's nice. Cadence Pro is the pro version of the theme. You can get the pro version. It offers you a lot more content that you can it's expensive. Is it worth it? If you have multiple sites, it's worth it because it's not just you can use it on multiple sites. So it'll go across all the sites that you own, no matter how many you have. They do have their own related content. They do have simple share. I have not used these yet. But I love Cadence and I think it's worth it. It is, they do have a lifetime membership and then they do have an annual one, which I think is like $169 a year. But like I said, if you have multiple sites or once you get really good at building your sites and you want to do more, you can do that. Cadence starter templates is not included in that. This is free, it's separate, and this is the templates that I was telling you about earlier that you can build your site off of. Lucky WordPress table of contents, I definitely recommend because it gives people an easy way of, I minimize mine. It's right here, and then people can hit show, and then they can jump to a certain part of your blog post. This is really handy for if you've ever been to a recipe blog and you've had to read through somebody's life story before you get to the recipe. It might be great the first time you're there, but if you're making it for the second time and you don't want to have to scroll through the entire post, you just want to jump to the recipe, that's a good way of doing it. Rank Math is the SEO plugin that I mentioned. Short Pixel is an image optimizer that you will want to have because again, it comes down to site speed and this will optimize your images so that they don't slow down your site. We can go into these in greater detail tomorrow if you'd like. Slickstream, these are all things that you don't really need. WordFence security is the one I was telling you about that you want to have that will secure your site. And as I do this, just so that you know that you always want to make sure that your plugins are updated because a lot of these are security updates. And so you always want to make sure that you go in every day and update your plugins. WP Rocket is a must. If you have a site and you buy WP Rocket and you want me to help you enter in some of your settings, I can do that for you. So you can email me offline and just say, hey, I bought WP Rocket. Can you help me with my JavaScript and CSS settings? And I can put the code in that will allow it to lazy load and do all those things that will help speed up your site. WP Optimize you do not need, because I actually had that before I had WP Rocket, and I definitely recommend WP Rocket. So any questions on plugins? Because this is what makes your site do everything it does, and this is really important.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you have a counter on your website,
Mhm.
and can you have, now I don't know if this, I'm just at, this may not make no sense, but if you have multiple different types of plugins, like multiple different counters,
Mhm.
can that cause issues where they're like kind of crossing each other? Or should you just like have, if you're going to have a specific plugin, like for a counter or whatever, if it's like the, you know,
Mhm.
something specific, should you just have
Yeah.
that one and not have multiple? Am I making sense?
So yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. You can, so it depends on the plugin, but what you should be able to do with counters is there should be a short code somewhere that you, so let's say you want to do a 7-day counter. So let's say you have a special offer and you want to count down, it's 1 week from today, and you want to do a 7-day counter. You should be able to, in the plugin, create that 7-day counter, and that 7-day counter should give you its own short code. And then let's say you have a 30-day counter. When you create that, that should have a separate short code, so that when you add it to your post, I'll just show you real quick because it's easier sometimes for me to, oh, this is bad example. I thought I had my other, oh, here it is. They all look alike, so it took me a second to find which blog I wanted. What you can do is when you edit the post in blocks, there is a short code block that you can add. And what I do and what I recommend people do is if you have a Mac, or you can even use a Word document if you don't have a Mac, but I like the notes function on the Mac. Again, you can use a Word document. These are all blocks. So you see how when I click on these, this is a heading block right here. This is a paragraph block, and you hit the little plus sign, you can hit short code. And here is where you would paste the short code for that particular counter that you want to use. So that way you can have multiple counters. I don't use a counter plugin, so I can't really speak about any individual ones, but that's how you would do it, is it should give you a short code.
Okay, and then you said the block, and to get that block thing is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure I wrote that down.
Mhm.
The block one is how do I get that?
The block editor?
That's what it's called. Okay, I got that. I wrote that down.
Or did you mean the short code?
No, the block editor, or even the short code.
Yeah, so the block editor, if you're just starting your site, it should be,
Sorry.
it's native to WordPress. So you should automatically be in the blocks unless you add the classic editor. But if you have an older site, you might be in classic editor, and you might need, I know it's really confusing. You might need to convert it to blocks. So when I went in this one, this is what the classic editor looks like. It kind of looks like a big Word document. This is what the blocks look like. So if I want to insert an image here, I can go ahead and click on image, and then I can pull an image from my image library. Where in here, if I want to add an image, I don't even remember how to do this. It's been so long since I worked in Classic Editor. But you would have to add it a different way. You can switch to block editor, but if you haven't converted them using that bulk block converter plugin, what's going to happen is all of this is going to be one block, where in here, this is a block. This is, every time you hit enter, it installs a block. So that's going to be the difference. So if you are in Classic and it looks like this, you want to use the bulk block converter. If it looks like this, where you are clicking and you see the little plus sign or the plus sign up here, then you're in Block Editor. This is where you want to be, because like I said, this one is going to be going away.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Diane, you did get another question.
Yep.
What is that short pixel image pixer? I didn't get the full name.
Oh, Short Pixel. So Short Pixel Image Optimizer. And what will happen when you add this is it will show up in your media. So you can go to your media library, or you can go to bulk Short Pixel, and what you can do, and it will only do so many, and then you got to get like credits, or you can just get like a monthly. I think the monthly one is really inexpensive. And then what you can do is you can optimize your entire media library. There's another thing that I recommend for images, because images are a site killer. Images can just be brutal, especially on mobile. So you always want to check your mobile settings in your theme and your desktop, because you can have some things excluded from mobile, which is sometimes a good idea. But there's a site called Squoosh. And what you can do is you can pull in an image. I'll pull in one of mine, and you can see the kilobytes down here, and you can change the quality, and you can go as low before it starts to get kind of pixelated, and then download it in Moz JPEG. WebP is even better, but the problem with WebP is that it's not supported by Safari. So if you have somebody who's on like an iPhone or something, they won't really, they won't get fed the image. So Moz JPEG is the best one as far as size goes. And then so this one, you'll notice that it'll change the percentage that it's improving it. This one's already kind of optimized. That's why it's looking like that. And then download it and then upload it. And then Short Pixel will optimize it even further. So that will really, and then you want to lazy load it. And we're going to go over that with WP Rocket as far as lazy loading your images and so on. There's a lot that, if you notice here, this is called above the fold. You don't want really any images to show above the fold, because that's when somebody first goes to your site, you want them to get fed that initial impression as fast as possible. When you have a bunch of images, especially if if nothing else from today, let me just say that if you have a slider on your website, please get rid of it. There is nothing worse for site speed, especially for mobile, than sliders. Soliloquy sliders are the worst. You want nothing to load above the fold. You want a nice, fast, again, this is slow because of Zoom, but see how over here, there's no image loading. I have no featured image. I do have a featured image, but I don't have it displayed here. You can turn it off in your theme so that it's there, because you can see it's feeding up here, but it's not in the post. Here's my featured images, but it's not here in the post. And you're not going to see an image until you get to my pin. So you want it nice and clean up here for site speed. But that's what Short Pixel does, basically, is it optimizes those images.
And
Any other questions?
I have another question. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
No, don't apologize.
The classic editor. So that classic editor, that is going away, basically. Is that what you're saying?
It's going away. They kind of keep changing the way they say it. It is going away. I would not bank on that staying there. they are going to be, you will have to, before I can't remember, like I said, I can't remember if it's the end of 21 or the beginning of 22, but you are going to have to convert your classic posts to block. If you don't have the bulk block converter, which is free, you can just download it. It's completely free. You're going to convert it into that one big block like I showed you. That's the way it's going to look. And it is a real pain. I have literally, before I knew that bulk block converter was even in existence, I had a couple that I did by converting them the other way. And if you ever want to add an image in the middle of all that text, or you want to do something like that, it is a real pain. It's better to have it in blocks so that you can just add stuff. In blocks, you can move stuff around. You can move a block up, you can move it down. So it's much, much better. Any other questions? So one more thing before I let you go for tonight. So your SEO plugin, again, you can go with Yoast or you can go with Rank Math. There are other ones out there. The one thing that this will do for you, you can completely optimize your post for SEO without using a plugin, but what it's going to do is it's going to give you the metadata, and it's going to give you the sitemap settings that you need for Google to find you. Google will eventually find you without a sitemap, but it's going to take a really long time. As a new site, it's already going to take somewhere between 6 and 9 months for you to rank. Not rank completely, but rank kind of settling into where you're going to settle in. And you can do that a lot faster with the sitemap. So while, you know, keyword research and things like that, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow. While you can do all that without a plugin, you really need to have it for these other things like metadata. And plus it makes life easy on you when you're trying to write for specific keyword. It tells you whether or not you've optimized the post for that keyword. So I would have a look at Rank Math and Yoast and see which one is going to work best for you. You can go to their websites to do that. I personally am a big fan of Rank Math. I've used Yoast. Rank Math has the ability to enter in many more keywords than Yoast does. And it's not that that's going to make a difference, but it makes a difference for how you optimize your posts with those keywords. Google's going to rank you for what it's going to rank you for. I rank for keywords that aren't even in my post. But if you have specific keywords that you want to target, Rank Math is going to give you the ability to enter more of those in the plugin so that you can make sure those keywords are in your headers. You can make sure that they're in your text. It will tell you whether or not you've optimized the post for those. So I personally like Rank Math, but have a look at them and see which one you would prefer. Any other questions? No? Okay. All right, so we will meet tomorrow. We'll go over SEO. We're going to go over some of the more detailed stuff. If you have questions about WordPress itself, let me know. If you have questions about hosting, I will, in the email that I send out with the recording, I will send out the link to ConvertKit. And I will also send out a link to Name Hero and Big Scoots. If you're a new blogger, you're probably not going to want to go with Big Scoots. Name Hero is going to be more than sufficient, but I will send those out to you as well. So any last questions before I let you go?
Just thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I'll see you all tomorrow, and I will send that recording out as soon as I get it.
Thanks, Diane. Great as usual.
Thank you.